Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's nugget, and it is Wellness Wednesday. So, yes, and one is with Mark, and as always, one is feeling jubilant. Yes, I am. Why am I feeling jubilant today? Because I just am. That's the rules. And as I said, one needs to get into the flow of being jubilant. We can't let the fact that we have had a blah year, some of us, that we should now be in the doldrums. No, no, no. We have to still stay jubilant. Yes. So, what are we going to talk about today on this Wellness Wednesday? Well, as I have been watching all the commercials and the ads, and they're showing all these different families eating food, and the turkey crown and the this that and what is it, pigs in something blanket and all kinds of stuff, and mince pies. Ugh, I don't like mince pies. But I started to think about the reality really of this pandemic. Many people have had to be in isolation, whether it's for them being vulnerable or for it's for their their health, or they actually maybe had encountered the coronavirus and so then they had to go into self-isolation. But throughout this time, this year of 2020 has been about social distancing and isolation. And I really don't think we truly have an understanding of the severe impact that isolating and being isolated from family, friends, loved ones, work colleagues, and your school peers can have on someone. So I thought I would take today, especially as we're drawing nearer to the festive season, and we would look at that today on Wellness Wednesday and how we can become a community even though we're at a distance, because community is important and that's what keeps us thriving and jiving. So let's talk about it. Now, I don't know if you're like me, I sometimes get these moments where I just want to go singing off by myself and doing all kind of things and prancing around the house. Yes, I do. I'll admit it. I'm crazy all by myself. And so one of the songs that someone was saying to me last week, oh, you're going to have a really good Christmas. I said, no, I'm not doing Christmas. I'm being the Grinch. I am not doing Christmas. I just want to watch movies, eat good food, stay in my bed, in my night clothes all day if I want to. Don't care if I smell funky and don't want to deal with anybody. And they were like, you can't be like that. It's Christmas. I said, yes, I can. And they were like, you can't be like that. You can't be by yourself at Christmas. I was like, why? And then I started singing this song. I don't know if you guys remember a song years ago, and I have to put Jamaica on blast. When I was younger, especially in the 90s, Jamaica used to go on like if the only music artists in the world were Mariah Carey and Celine Dion. If you're a Jamaican, you know what I'm talking about. They killed Celine Dion and Mariah Carey. And one of the songs that was always played was All by Myself. That song, I was singing that last week and I was dying with laughter. You know, it starts off with, when I was young, I never needed anyone, and making love was just for fun. Those days are gone. Living alone, I think of all the friends I've known. When I dial the telephone, nobody's home. All by myself. Don't want to be all by myself. All by myself anymore. And it goes on. You guys need to go and listen to the song. I was in here dying with laughter. And I said, okay, maybe being the Grinch is not so good. So I may invite some people around to have a Grinch Christmas with me. How about that? But yeah, so, but in thinking about that song and looking at life as we are living right now, I'm starting to see some real big commonalities with social distancing and isolation and how it's impacting on our mental health. And I'm a mental health advocate, so I'm always going to be bringing something to us, especially on a Wellness Wednesday, on what's that about. So let's get into it and see what's going on. Oh, but I can't leave out our National Day. Some of it actually relates to mental health, but it's National Christmas Card Day today, people. National Christmas Card Day. And especially for all of those of you who send out cards and things overseas, You gotta get them in the post now, otherwise they won't reach for Christmas. Yes, so let's look at National Card Day. So each year around this time, friends and families begin mailing their holiday cards. Christmas Card Day on December 9th serves as a reminder to get your stamps, your envelopes, your cards together so you can share the holiday cheer this year. Sending a card during the holidays hasn't always been a tradition. In Victorian England, where it started, sending penny post was inexpensive and frequent. It was also considered rude to ignore a written message. One particularly popular Victorian invented the holiday card out of necessity. His name was Sir Henry Cole, and he received frequent letters, and it left him a little time for other responsibilities. So in 1843, he asked his friend J.C. Horsley to illustrate a design he had in mind. And Cole was off to the printer. And he mailed the first Christmas card in the penny post to his friends, family, and many acquaintances. And I just think that's so cool. Today, we mail a variety of cards at Christmas time. The tradition of Christmas cards continues in a broader sense. Social and electronic media keep us connected in this modern world of holiday cards. And maybe the only communication, especially this year, that we receive from a long-time friend or family member. Even if we spent an abundance of time with them once, these once-a-year notes touch us with a bit of meaning this time of year. We take the time to connect once again and say, we are thinking of you more than ever before. Thinking of you at Christmas, and continues to be a part of our annual tradition, even if it takes on a different style or pattern, especially this year. So some ways that you can, send a Christmas cheer this year is by photo cards. That's all the new range. You see all these commercials saying, just click and send the pic. Do that, especially the grandparents. They love that, to see their grandchildren and their children's children in photo. It's just memories. The Christmas letter, send a letter. I don't know if you remember pen pals. Well, here's a time for a pen pal. Then you've got, of course, the postcards, and then you get business cards. Oftentimes, many business cards will send you out a Christmas card. I know that, the insurance for the car always likes to send you a Christmas card and then tell you about they're going to put up your premium in January, but that's another story. And so, of course, then you also have New Year cards. So that's one of the things. So this year, especially because we can't get out and you might not get to spend as much time with family, please do send a Christmas cheer, send a card. And I know that many of us don't celebrate Christmas because we all know that's not when Jesus was born. Yeah, I said it. I'm sorry to boo-hoo it all. That was not when Jesus was born. 24th of December. No, it's not. Wasn't that? We can go into that another time. But it's a good time to spend with family and to bring everyone together. So that's what it is. It is also today National Pastry Day. Woohoo! And we like some pastries. And it's one of the world's most favored baked goods. And on the 9th of December, you meant to visit your local bakery and pick up one or two of your favorite kinds. A pastry is a name given to a large variety of baked goods, which are made with ingredients such as flour, sugar, milk, butter, shortening, baking powder, and eggs. Pastry dough is rolled out thinly and then used as a base for different. A few of the more common bakery items include pies, tarts, quiches, and pasties. Bakers create both savory and sweet dishes from the doughs they create. Additionally, they continue to develop new and delicious creations all the time. And don't we delight? Pastries can be traced as far back as the ancient Mediterranean, where they had almost paper-thin, multi-layered baklava and phyllo dough. Pastry making began in Northern Europe from after the Crusaders brought it back from the Mediterranean, and the French and Italian Renaissance chefs eventually perfected the puff and choux pastries, while 17th and 18th century chefs brought new recipes to the table. Included in the innovative recipes were Napoleon's cream puffs and eclairs. Culinary historians often consider the French pastry chef Antonin Crème, 1784 to 1833, to have been the original great master of pastry making in modern times. So many different types of pastry deliver baked goods that make our mouths water. Most of them fall into one of the following categories: short crust pastry, simplest and most common; Sweet crust pastry, similar to short crust but sweeter. Flaky pastry, similar, simple pastry that expands when cooked. Puff pastry has many layers that cause to puff when baked. Choux pastry, very light pastry that is often filled with cream or other fillings. And phyllo pastry, paper thin pastry dough that is used in many layers. So there you have it. I have gone and got your mouth watering to go and get yourself a lovely pastry dish. And so after all of that pastry talk, let's get into Wellness Wednesday and isolation, the social isolation and how it affects our mental health. And I'm telling you, people, we really don't realize the impact of isolation. So, in the words, I thought I'd look at a time in scripture. You know, I like to look at it in a biblical perspective of where isolation may have come in, or what happened. And I looked and found in Luke 5:12-16 and Leviticus 1-7. And it says that while Jesus was in one of the cities, there came a man covered with an advanced case of leprosy. And when he saw Jesus, he fell on his face and begged him, saying, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean and well." And Jesus reached out his hands and touched him, saying, "I am willing, be cleansed." And immediately the leprosy left him. And Jesus ordered him to tell no one that he might happen to meet, but go and show himself to the priest and make an offering for your purification, just as Moses commanded, as a testimony witness to them that this is the work of the Messiah. And then I saw, okay, like he said Moses, so I thought I'd go and check that out. What is that? I then went and had a look, and it then says in about leprosy, the test in Leviticus 13. So the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man has swelling on the skin of his body, a scab or a bright spot, and it becomes the infection of leprosy on the skin of his body, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priest. The priest shall look at the disease spot on the skin of his body, and if the hair on the infection is turned white, and the infection appears deeper than the skin of his body, it is an infection of leprosy. When the priest has looked at him, he shall pronounce him ceremoniously unclean. And if the bright spot is white on the skin of his body and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and the hair on it has not turned white, the priest shall isolate the person who has the infection for 7 days. And then the priest will examine it on the 7th day, and if the estimation of the infection has not changed and has not spread, then the priest shall isolate him for a further 7 more days. I was like, wow, that's kind of deep. That's quite interesting, because that's actually showing that even in biblical times, this isolation thing and quarantining 14 days was all the rage. It kind of was a bit crazy to me. And then it says later on, it says, the priest shall look, and the scab has spread on the skin, and he shall pronounce him unclean, because it is leprosy. And so leprosy was one of the worst diseases in biblical times. And why was that? Because they didn't have the medications and things that we do now. And so they couldn't heal it. So you had to go into quarantine to see if the disease could be taken away from you. And that's a bit like us here now with this blessed COVID-19. But what is COVID-19 and this isolation doing to us? And especially at this time, when people don't want to talk about it, we need to stop the stigma of mental health, because our mental health is important. And especially now at this time, mental health issues have just increased. So the risk of social isolation, taken from the APA.org 370, where Hawkley points to evidence linking perceived social isolation with adverse health consequences, including depression, poor sleep quality, impaired executive function, accelerated cognitive decline, poor cardiovascular function, and impaired immunity at every stage of life. Can you hear how detrimental being isolated could be for us? I mean, come on, this is just, I know it sounds crazy, but being isolated is deep. Trust me, and it's something we definitely need to address and take a look at. So let's go. I love this quote from Malcolm X. When I is replaced by we, even illness becomes wellness. And I mean, I just think that is just so cool. I love it. But where can we go when we're feeling isolated or because we're lonely? And I've been talking to a lot of people of late, especially about their singleness, which I'm going to talk about some more in depth next week. And it's like being single at this time, especially in COVID-19 pandemic, it's really having a detrimental impact because you can't go out and date, you can't go to a coffee shop, you can't go and hang out with your friends like normal. And so what's happening is people are starting to really be impacted, especially people who are single, the elderly and the young people, the ages between 15 and 25, who are really starting to take this, detrimentally. So how loneliness can affect your health. Loneliness levels have reached an all-time high, with nearly half of 20,000 US and UK adults reporting they sometimes or always feel alone. 40% of the survey participants also reported they sometimes or always feel that their relationships are not meaningful and that they feel isolated. I mean, that's just so sad. Such numbers are alarming because of the health and mental health risks associated with loneliness. According to a meta-analysis co-authored by Julian Holt Lundstedt, PhD, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Brigham Young University, lack of social connection heightens health risks as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or having alcohol use disorder. I mean, that is just crazy. She's also found that loneliness and social isolation are twice as harmful to the physical and mental health as obesity. I mean, come on, this is just becoming even more alarming. Perspectives on Psychological Science, you can get all this information in volume 10. Number 2, there is a robust evidence that social isolation and loneliness significantly increase risk of premature mortality, and the magnitude of the risk exceeds that of many leading health indicators, Professor Holt Lundstedt explains. In an effort to stem such health risks, campaigns and coalitions to reduce social isolation and loneliness and individuals' perceived level of social isolation have been launched in Australia, Denmark, and the United Kingdom, as well as the United States. These national programs bring together research experts, non-profit and government agencies, community groups, and skilled volunteers to raise awareness about loneliness and the address of social isolation through evidence-based interventions and advocacy. So, but is loneliness really increasing, or is it a condition that hormones that humans have always experienced at various times of life? In other words, are we becoming lonelier or just being more inclined to recognize and talk about the problem when we are feeling lonely? You know, how does loneliness affect you and your health? Let's go in deeper into this. So especially in COVID-19 throughout this pandemic, and we've been going through this now practically for 8, in some places 10 months. How does loneliness impact us in COVID-19? More than 3 in 5 Americans report feeling lonely, and that number has been rising. And now the coronavirus outbreak has led even more of us to experience some level of social isolation. It's widely recommended that everyone practice social distancing, which means staying 6 feet away from others and keeping trips to public spaces like the grocery store to a minimum. Moreover, people who have potentially been exposed to the coronavirus are then told to quarantine at home for at least 14 days alone. Social isolation at such a stressful time can contribute to anxiety and have a negative impact on mental health. Here's how you can stay as mentally healthy as possible. Social isolation can negatively affect mental health and physical health. Why? Because humans are born to be social animals, and being isolated can make a big impact on our health. And this is also from Zayton Anavov, MD, a New York-based psychiatrist. All our systems, including social, psychological, and biological, have developed around social groups and interaction with one another. Ivanhoff says social isolation in most cases would bring the negative effects of loneliness, anxiety, and sometimes depression. Signs that loneliness may be affecting your well-being are disrupted sleep, social withdrawal, difficulty focusing, lethargy, and being highly excitable. How do you reduce these negative effects? We are going to talk about that in much more depth in a few minutes. So social isolation, let's look at a few of these. It impacts your mental health, and the effects, and your physical health and the effects. Social isolation is sometimes hard to define, but what matters most is whether a person feels lonely, which scientists refer to as perceived social isolation. So it's your perception of you being in that environment. While this can have negative effects on mental health, it can also harm your physical health. So this is where we have a look. So you can get headaches and stomach aches. It can also make you become obese in young adulthood. You can also increase your risk of substance abuse because you're depending on that to try and help you. And it can worsen your physical health. For example, researchers found that perceived social isolation is associated with depression, cognitive decline, heart troubles, and a weakened immune system. In addition, one study found that loneliness can lead to 30% increase in the risk of coronary artery disease and stroke. The study's authors suggest this is because of high levels of stress, poor sleep, and unhealthy lifestyle habits, which are more likely to occur with less social interaction and accountability. Families with immunocompromised children who have to practice social distancing at this time in normal circumstances are also known to suffer physical and mental health consequences. Plus, Dr. Ivanhoff says that the effects of isolation get worse with time. And so, over this period of time that we have been here in isolation and quarantining, we are seeing the detrimental health effects on social distancing and self isolation at this moment. Depression has increased, there is increased anxiety, there has been a quadruple amount of suicidal tendencies, feelings, and attempts. And people's low self esteem and sleep pattern has been disturbed. This is actually much bigger than we really realize. Self isolating and anxiety. The longer the period of isolation, the more likely it becomes for the individual to show signs of anxiety, loneliness, and depression and other mental afflictions. How to stay mentally healthy during social isolation. Much of the anxiety we're feeling right now comes from uncertainty. So we need to create some certainty for yourself as soon as you can. This means creating a new routine, some daily structure. Get going with this as soon as possible and stick to it as best as you can. We have, as they say, the anxious gremlins that are inside our heads and they're freaking us out because they've never seen this before. Isolation, what is that? Self-isolation, what is that? Quarantine, what the jail is that? They panic when they don't know what to expect. Create a new, but albeit temporary normal within your life for them. So your mind can then calm down and you can keep your focus on that routine and, take it one day at a time. Many studies about the negative effects of isolation have looked at people who are not readily able to communicate with others. But that's not just the case with the coronavirus, where millions of people are physically isolated but able to keep in touch via technology. One of the important ways to protect your mental health during social isolation is continuing to communicate with those you love using technology like video chat. We need to video chat. We need to stay. Oh Lord, I'm so zoomed out though. I can't stand Zoom. But yes, you need to video chat and to keep in contact with each other via video. So here's a short excerpt from Dr. Nicholas Mitchell.
Self-isolation and social distancing are important tools to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. So something that we all need to be doing. That said, it does create more distance between us and a greater sense of loneliness and isolation, which can negatively impact our mental health. It can also disrupt our normal routines and our normal relationships, which help us to stay healthy at the best of times. There are a lot of tools available through social media, through apps. We live in a virtual and technological world that allows us to connect with people in ways we never could before. For those who are practicing social distancing, particularly those who are on self-isolation, this is an important way of reaching out, maintaining relationships and connection to others. That might look like setting up appointments or times to regularly check in with people or have phone calls, setting up virtual dates or meetings or coffees or chats. For those of us who aren't self-isolated, we can look for those around us who might be struggling with loneliness and reach out to them, find ways that we connect with them through social media.
Together, we do amazing things every day.
Yes, we do. Oh my gosh. Sometimes when I think about the impact that this pandemic is having on our world and the people around us, and the effects, it's quite concerning. And so when you look at mental health and how it impacts you during COVID, your concerns are valid. It is normal to feel and worry and stress during a time of crisis. Recognize, though, your signs of anxiety. Realize what you can control. Take ownership of your own body, your home, and your exposure to the news. And that is one thing. All these reports every day of this many people died, this many, sometimes you just need to shut that out. You just need to cut that out of your psyche. You don't need to know about that. The reality is people have been dying every day of our lives, but they did not report it before. People die sadly of heart attacks, lung disease, cancer, just so many things that people pass away for, and they don't report it every day. All these deaths, and yes, I am saying this, they're not all COVID related. They are not all COVID related. The person has just died at this time, at the time when COVID is going. And I think that's sort of what is also just really heightening the anxiety that people are having. Stay in touch with your loved ones and practice meditation, exercise, and deep breathing. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that. Social isolation is more than feeling lonely. How connected are you? Social isolation has reached epidemic proportions at this time and has a negative impact on our emotional and physical health. Are you or a loved one at risk for social isolation? I want you guys to go and take this assessment to find out if you're at risk. And you can take the self-assessment at connect2effect.org. So that's CONNECT, the number 2, and then AFFECT.org. Connect2effect.org. Take that assessment and see if you are at risk or feeling that you are in loneliness or self-isolation. Make a phone call to a friend and family member more than once a week. Connect to others virtually through social media. Create and follow a daily routine. Eat healthy. Don't take out. Don't just go with takeouts and stuff, because all that processed food is not going to be beneficial to your hormones and your mental health. Focus on the altruistic reasons for social distancing, not the fact that it isn't because you cannot be with people. And I want to just give us this simple prayer at this time before I just share with you the tips, because it's tough and it's really, really hard on a lot of people. Father, at this time, I just want you to cover everyone under the sound of my voice. Please come to them right where they are and fill them with your spirit and let them know they are not alone. Please, please, please let them know that this too shall pass. Please protect them. Please keep them from harm. Don't let them catch the coronavirus, which is actually what is the cause of why everyone is so distant from one another. And please let us keep in touch with family and loved ones in all the electronic ways that we have possible. Thank you so much for your love, for hearing and answering prayers. Amen. So I want to leave you with a blessing for your family. In 2 Samuel 7:28-29, it says, "And now, Master God, being the God you are, speaking sure words as you do, and having just said this wonderful thing to me, please just do one more thing. Bless my family." So I want to bless you guys. Keep your eye on them always. You've already as much as said that you would. Master God, oh my, your blessing be on my family permanently. And that is what I desire for your lives, for you to be blessed permanently by God. Please also note the individuals that are higher at risk of mental health at this time of self-isolating and loneliness. It's more common in these two groups, which I said previously: young people aged 15 to 25, and the older individuals, I would say from 70 up. Please, if you have a grandparent, a neighbor, a teenager, whatever that or a young adult, please stay in touch. Just text them a little something, WhatsApp them, do a video chat. If you have to, download Snapchat, get on TikTok, but get to them and let them know that they're not alone. The most important factor in determining how social isolation affects mental health is whether you feel lonely or not. Feeling lonely can cause you the anxiety, the stress, and the cognitive decline. And that's what we don't want at this time. And especially in this festive season, it's really going to hit a lot of people that I'm on my own and it's Christmas and I can't go to my mum's or dad's because maybe they're a vulnerable person and I can't be around them. So now I'm alone. And that has a big impact on people. The longer someone feels isolated, the greater the risk that they are experiencing the mental health effects of social isolation. To stay mentally healthy during social isolation, I want you guys to get out there now and try exercising. Take on some meditation. Getting outdoors in nature is one of the best ways to try and help you at this time. Go and breathe in all that oxygen that the trees have got and go and give them that carbon dioxide. Take yourself a nice hot bath, put the candles, relax and enjoy yourself. Just make sure you take some time for self-care. Overall, these activities can stimulate your production of the neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, and your endorphins. I like those four, all of which promote mental health and stability. Focusing on what you're grateful for is also a key factor. Like spending time with family or getting to try a new hobby. This can also help lift your mood and combat the effects of isolation. For example, there was a small study of 32 healthy people, and they found that gratitude meditation could improve their mental health and emotional regulation. So if you need to, I want you to get into a space that is quiet and you can even write down all the things you're grateful for and go through and just say, thank you, God, thank you, Creator, thank you just for allowing me to have this. Even if you say thank you for my car, thank you for my home or the roof over my head, thank you for the food that I could eat. Just be grateful for the things that you have. It really will change your thought process and your mindset. And remember, relationships at this time are even more of value. So please stay in touch and contact and communicate. And if you have, I'm just going to be real, if you had fallen out with somebody before Rona, please go handle that. Go and tell them, even though you hurt my feelings, you done this, you did whatever, I'm going to forgive you, but I don't want you to not feel that you are loved. And there are many organizations out there to support you. Please don't feel you have to go through it alone or live this alone. There is NAMI.org, there's incase.org, there's loneliness.org, there's bestlandcda.com, which is supporting senior citizens, and there's the psychologist.bps.org.uk, and there's youngminds.org.uk. So you've got lots of organizations out there that will be willing to support you. Also, if you want someone to talk to, don't forget you've got the Samaritans, there's also Dr. Bernardo's, there's also the mindsofamerica.gov. So there's different people that you can contact. So please, please, please do not go through this alone. So that's our talk today on social distancing and isolation. And I really want to leave you all with the fact that you are not alone. This is the time we need to build and have more of our community. We need to come together, whether it's via the telephone, whether it's online, whatever, and come together and stick with each other and make sure that you think about that neighbor, that that school friend, that whoever, especially if you know that there are people that are on their own, they are single, they're senior citizens, they've lost a partner, a loved one. Please keep in touch. Say hi. I'm just checking in on you. How are you doing today? That's all you need to do. Okay, no problem. Speak to you next week. So you give them also that bit of hope. You can phone and touch base with at least 5 people a week and take 2 days for yourself if you want to be miserable. And then you can just, not even a 5 minute check-in call. Just see how are you. That is good for you as it's good for them. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this Wellness Wednesday on isolation. Please, as always, stay safe and stay blessed. Bye bye.